And we're live. I am so excited about today. We are interviewing someone who would be a great interview at any point in time, but a lot of excitement this week post Carolina Cup about his big win. So not the only thing we're going to talk about, but I promise we'll do that pretty early because some of you I know want to know that story. It's going to be fantastic. I'm Kristen Thomas. This is Supconnect, and every Thursday I get to talk to paddling people all around the world about their story and what they're up to. And I so appreciate all of you who join regularly. And if you're new, thanks for being here. We, again, do this usually every Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Sometimes we switch it around a little bit. Thanks last week for those of you for being patient. I did kind of a preview story and walked around and found a whole bunch of people. Yay for the big win. Yes, lots of people are saying that. Fantastic. So this is live, and if your friends missed it, it does get recorded also. So it immediately goes to Supconnect's IGTV, and then you can find it on YouTube, Supconnect, and also my YouTube, which is KT Outside. We are going to be talking to Danny Ching in just a moment, from California, I believe his whole life. I don't know if he was born in Redondo Beach, but that's certainly, interestingly, from a water family. He's not the first, but I think he might be the first from an outrigger family. So been a water amazing person his whole life, in and around the water. And we'll talk more about that. Danny Ching. Hopefully, he's actually on vacation, so it's so kind of him to join us, especially when it's a beautiful day. Ah, yes, I love it. He's outside in our beautiful weather. We're going to make people jealous.
It's pretty nice today.
Oh, I'm so glad this worked. I know you don't have Wi-Fi there, but phones?
Yeah.
4 bars, all good.
Works.
Danny, thank you so much for joining. If you heard the intro, I promised that we would talk about Carolina Cup pretty early. I don't want to forget because what an amazing story. Can't wait to hear your version of it. But you have so much to share, so I always want to back up and start. You are from a water family. Your dad, Al Ching, is kind of a legend in OC. I assume you were in and around the water just like what you're doing with your daughters from a very early age. What's your story, and when did you first find stand-up?
Yeah, like you said, I grew up paddling outriggers my whole life. Did junior guards as a kid locally in Hermosa, Redondo Beach, and lived there my entire life. And my dad started a canoe club. I got heavily involved into that. My uncle Josh got me into Olympic sprint kayak, so I followed that for a while. And then a couple buddies of mine, Ohana Paddle Surf, Russ Cobalt, and his buddy were trying to get me into stand-up for years. And I finally just said, okay, I'll do it. And that kind of just led to the next thing. So stand-ups, done very well. I've paddled outriggers, done very well in that. My buddy Ross Flemmer got me into dragon boats with the U.S. team, and we won some world championships there, and done a little bit of Olympic kayak, a lot of surf ski stuff, and just anything with a paddle, and another opportunity to go back on the water is great.
A true waterman, and you're a great surfer too, which I know doesn't always get mentioned because I don't know if you've ever competed much in it, but we'll talk more about, like, you're just such a waterman all around on the board. But for stand-up, you were a champion from the beginning. So you've had 12 years of being kind of at the top, right from the very beginning. 2009, was it your very first race that you won that was a U.S. championships, or one of your early races?
So my buddy Russ Cobalt was trying to get me to race, and I had a scheduled practice that day for outrigger. And the big goal in my life growing up was to win the Molokai Solo World Championships. And this is about 10 years into the process, and I still hadn't won one. So I had this big plan to do like a 50-mile paddle, and he kept asking me to race. So it was in Redondo, my hometown. It was half a mile for where I was going to paddle anyway, and I was going to finish about 10 minutes after the practice started, which meant if I paddled off the beach, I could meet the guys. And so we did the race. He brought down a board for me, and my buddy Will Reichenstein was like 17 at the time. We ended up going first and fourth, and then we said hi, thank you, and then we paddled off the beach on our outriggers into the sunrise. And then about 8 hours later, they called me to tell me that I had won and there was a check for me. And I let them know that we had just finished paddling. So we did like a 50-mile paddle, like the day, like 10 minutes after we finished. And they were losing their minds, like, but you did a race. The whole week, like, I have this paddle, but I'll do this also because, at that age, more miles is better for you, right?
Well, the OC tradition. I really feel personally like that's the best connection to stand up, and that's certainly what I emulate. But I live near you here in Southern California, so we get to see a lot of it. But that stroke, but that's amazing that after all of Russ's hard work, thank you, Russ Coble of Ohana, for getting Danny into it, because I know you have such a passion for so many watercraft. But we're very lucky that you love stand up too. But then your second race was one of the biggest in the world at that time. Not that the WPA championships wasn't, but it brought people from everywhere. 2009. So was that the third Battle of the Paddle, I think? Second Battle of the Paddle, your second race ever.
Yeah. So both come down, and I did the first race, and I was, again, so focused on the outrigger side and racing just incredibly great paddlers my whole life, watching them, and then racing it. Kai Bartlett's, the Corral Juniors, I mean, even the Lauren Spaldings, like all these great Hawaii, a lot of Tahitian outrigger paddlers. When I came to stand up, I recognized a few names, and then I recognized there were a handful of people that kind of knew how to paddle, and then a lot of people that did not, for what I was expecting, like 1,000 years of paddling, and it's about 3 or 4 years of paddling experience for most people. So it was really interesting. Like, I was watching Jamie Mitchell, I was like, man, that guy's paddled before. I don't know when, but I can tell in his stroke. And then you see guys like Slater Trout, like 15 years old. And I was like, wow, he tries really hard. Problem, get tired.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because quite a few of people I've talked to, the Connors, well, those from Hawaii are from wind sport backgrounds, which certainly was helpful to this sport, no doubt about it, and it had been raised in wind and waves. And boy, last weekend was a good example of how being raised in conditions, being not afraid. I think those, I forget how you put it. I would put it even more strongly. I think that really out of a couple hundred races were the toughest conditions I've ever paddled in. And I downsized my race to only 6 miles, thank goodness. Tell us about the Carolina Cup.
Well, first of all, thank you to Mark. I know Dan Gavir announcing, all the people that ran the Carolina Cup. It's the first big stand-up race to come back after the shutdown. And so they had a rough time with the conditions, with the setup, pushing the race back. So thank you for making the adjustments and just allowing the race to happen in a safe and timely manner. So it was really, really nice to have that. But that being said, it was a challenge. Obviously, they were calling 15 to 20 mile an hour winds. It definitely was a little windier than that. They put everything into the sound side because it would be calmer, and it was calmer. It was not calm.
Not calm, but calmer, yes.
Not calm at all. And they're worried, like the graveyard has a feeling to it. When you do the graveyard race, it's kind of, I equate it to like if you've ever ran a marathon for the first time, and there's certain marathons that have this like lore and legend to them. And, for the most part, Chatterjack's been like that, this crazy, gnarly, uncomfortable sufferfest. And I heard this year was really nice.
Yeah.
But the graveyard this year, they were worried since you didn't go in the ocean, it wasn't going to be as hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
It was in all the years I've done it, I think I'm at 7 or 8 now. And I would equate that to one of the harder versions of the graveyard that we've done. So
yeah. Without even going in the ocean, without even battling waves.
Oh, there were waves.
There were waves. That's true. Just not the same kind. Yeah. So yeah, kudos to anybody who even attempted to do it. I know a lot of people downsized their race. It was a little bit shorter, but it was still plenty hard, anyone who did it. So hopefully, I'm excited they're going to get back on track with April. So they have a date for April, the end of April. So you should put that on your calendar. Such a great meetup in place. But let's talk about how, boy, I think was it only 2 miles from the end? You were probably in about, I don't know, 10th or 12th place or something?
It was a good form, and I was definitely ninth. And
nice.
The race was hard. I was expecting them to go up the sound a little bit and then ride the wind back, so we'd get like the push back. You do all the hard work first, and they kept it on the same loop as the Money Island and the Harbor Island race, which meant we just got to go further downwind before we came back. So once I heard that, it kind of put back into my mind, hey, this is the graveyard, this is the Carolina Cup. You need to save something for the end, and you're not allowed to lose the race in the first 3 quarters. That's basically how the graveyard's always been in the history of the existence. I think once I took a flyer a long time ago when all the fast racers. I think Boothie's tried it a few times and recognized if he just waits, he can win it by being stronger at the end. But the race is always the end of the race. You gotta be in position to win, and you gotta have something left. And the direction we went downwind first, I just knew, like, hey, if I'm within 100 or 200 yards of everybody at the bottom turn, if I have it, I'll be able to pull that back. If I don't have it, it doesn't matter. I wouldn't be able to pull the train anyway. So just the whole mindset the whole day was position yourself and save something for the end. And there was
Words of a champion right here. I hope everybody's listening. Somebody who's raced so many miles and so many long races.
that comes from the Molokai solo race. That race, asked Travis Grant. He's won it both on the OC1 and the stand-up. A bunch of the guys I've raced against, you're positioning for about 3 hours of a 3.5 hour race. And then you take a swing and you hope you can pick up the bat.
Yeah. Well, wisdom in then saving some for the end, but also you took a different course, which I think again shows your water knowledge. I mean, I don't know anybody who can read water better than you.
It's funny because it doesn't matter if you can read, and I know all the guys in front of me, all the guys behind me, they can absolutely read water. But in those moments when you're put under that much pressure, you tend to get this tunnel vision. And so I know T2's kicking himself right now because he spent so much time racing all the guys around him. Just essentially, he was trying to be the king and just knocking everybody down, but he got tunnel vision on a singular focus and forgot to look up. And if you look at the map, I actually went straight. And they came off and they saw the edge and they see the finish line and they went straight across at the worst possible time. And I just remember yelling at Tommy, I was like, hey, take a sip of water. We're going to go up and we're going to catch him. And I'm pretty sure he looked at me like, what do you mean you're going to go up?
But he knew to follow that advice and he did go with you. So two of you took a different course. And it is interesting. I wondered if part of it, T2 and those guys, it's kind of creatures of a habit. That is usually how we see you guys coming up, like right against, sure.
All weekend, like all week, the forecast 2 weeks out, the forecast all week long. And then we were teaching lessons on Thursday and Friday, and you couldn't run them on the right side of the channel because it was so windy and everything was just blowing across enough to put that wind chop into those piers. And so we looked at it, and Kristen, your house was flooding every morning. It was so
yeah.
So,
King tides, that was another part of the craziness while we're racing. How about going under those bridges?
Yeah, so trying to get under the bridges. We got to kneel on one, and we had to lay down and just straight prone the other one, and that was interesting. I didn't see that coming, and I had a plan for almost everything, and I didn't see the bridges, and I didn't see the reeds. That threw me off completely.
Yeah. I think I shared issues with both of those. I didn't get down to prone position. I got a hip issue right now. I have a bump on my head because I didn't prone the second one and I hit it.
You needed to if you wanted to get under.
And I had to stop to get reeds off my fin because I went through one of those piles of craziness.
Yeah, it's funny because I never catch reeds on my rudder. I never catch kelp. It always pulls off. And I realized as soon as we were coming across the top that you couldn't get enough speed to actually hit the reeds and have them pull down. When we were in the cross chop, it was coming over the top, and so I was getting like full reeds on my lap.
Yep. In the downwind. Too funny. Yeah. Sup Ninja course is what Bernie called it. Definitely you used some extra skills that you didn't know you were going to on that race. Well,
to have those skills and not remember until you're like, oh God, what do I do? Oh, I know. Hold on.
Well, congratulations again. Super amazing. And yes, we do appreciate the Carolina Cup and all that they put into it. Tough decisions for them. It's not fun for them when they have weather like that where they have to make decisions,
You know what? They had the proper safety set up. They had a plan. They were super prepared. And, they've been expecting to run this race, 2 or 3 times already. And they've already been doing it for 10 years. So good on them. They normally don't have to dig this deep into their experience to make it happen. But I was very glad that they did. Yeah.
The picture we used to promote is one that was taken. And you're dressed, as now, you're not shirt off. But you had a lot of clothes on. I have to say that's the cold. I've never been cold in a race, and I was teeth chattering at the end, shaking cold. Just that last section with the wind at your face, and it was raining.
Yeah.
How about you?
Remind me of all the windy downwinders we try and do here, and there's there's a certain amount of clothing where there's enough, then there's too much, and then there's not enough. And if you haven't been in those conditions, it's pretty hard. And you got to take into account how cold the water is versus how windy it is. Mm-hmm. And I know the APP wanted me to put a jersey on at the last minute so they could recognize. And I kind of politely said, hey, I'm perfectly set up for this. I don't want to change anything right now. And,
yeah,
I'm really sorry, but I'm going to go with I'm prepared, and I'm going to do it this way.
Yeah. Good for you. And again, congratulations. So you are the winningest male. That was your 4th win out of the 10 Carolina Cups. It was their anniversary, which they tried to have last year. A lot of us registered even before the pandemic, and they bumped it forward every 6 months, hoping to make it happen. So glad they did. They're caught up now, but they're going to go back to the spring. Weather's always unpredictable, probably now more than ever, but hopefully we'll have a little nicer weather in April. So and you will hopefully win it again. And then I think Annabelle has won it 5 times. So you need to beat that record and be the top. But you have so many records as such a waterman. I mean, that's amazing that you're a world champion in dragon boat and OC and stand-up paddling. And although we're more focused here, we can certainly talk about a lot of things. But besides being, a world champion and one of our top paddlers for 12 years in stand-up, you're also one of the top business people. So not too long after starting racing, it sounds like you had a vision, and you and Greg Jensen started 404 and Hippo Stick at the same time. Was that both 2010?
No, we actually started 404, and then about 4 years later, we started Hippo Stick.
Got it. So not paddles right away, went into the boards though. And what better person is someone like you, who's a waterman for life and had so much knowledge. The name 404, I've heard different stories. You want to share where you came up with that?
Yeah, so Greg's a little bit older than me, to put it nicely, but he came through the surfing background and was on the professional surfing tour, and grew up in Hawaii. And I'm from California, grew up in California with the Hawaiian background, but grew up in canoeing. And so the 404 was that perfect, his son Luke came up with it after 3 months of us not agreeing on a name. Like, why don't you just make it a number, 404, flip the 4 over, and half of 808 area code, the Hawaii area code, half Greg, half me.
Halfway to Hawaii and California. Love it.
You always want to check to make sure it doesn't mean anything like mean or bad, so we looked it up, and the only thing we can come up with was like 404 is that, error
message.
And I think in Europe it was like, it means you're clueless and you don't know what you're doing. That's great. Between the surfer and the boat racer, it's either going to be terrible or we're going to get the better of both ends. So it's been over 10 years now. It's been great. We got the new jump race board out, which came out a week before the Carolina Cup was supposed to go in 2020. So I've been sitting on this board, paddling this board, looking around at everybody that's not racing, going, I swear this is the fastest thing and the most comfortable thing I've ever paddled. And I had to wait a year and a half to race it. Well,
your co-champion, April, is also on a 404. So 404 won both the men's and women's Carolina Cup last weekend. Was she on a jump also, or
was on the exact same board I was on.
Awesome. That says a lot right there, everybody. Need to go check those boards out.
Yeah.
So
the funny thing, we're on the same paddles, but she used the bigger, more distance paddle, and I used the shorter, more sprint paddle. And it kind of fits our personalities. April's like a grinder, so we gave her the Triple G Hippo Stick, which is a little bigger, kind of a longer stroke. I used it in the Chatterjack 2 years ago, loved it. But looking at the ocean and wind conditions, I thought there'd be a point where I would have to 2 minutes sprint away from people. So I ended up picking our surf paddle, the Blur. You got to work a little harder on the grinding, but when it's time to go, you get a little more pickup instantly. And I laughed. Her strategy of just sit on it, wait everybody out worked. And mine was kind of the same thing, like, hey, now's your opportunity, go.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You both have amazing mental games, because she also was not in first until the end. So both
program and the experience of doing the Chatterjack, we run the Paddle Ninja training programs, and we have a program that we ran, basically the Carolina Cup program. Works really good upwind. It's really good for training that mental, just staying in that uncomfortable moment. And then when it gets really uncomfortable and everybody kind of takes a dip, going up. So it worked out great. It helps to have somebody with a similar thought process when we're bouncing ideas off each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, it also was in our favor that it was really uncomfortably tough.
So I want to mention that again, because you kind of brushed over it. So you have a platform for coaching, and it's you and April and others. Johnny Pouquet, is he still involved?
Yeah. So Johnny Pouquet is on the program. Paolo from Miami helps run all the dragon boat side of things. And basically it's just a training platform where it's a monthly subscription, and then we hand out different training programs. So every month you'll get 4 weeks of whatever your training program is, leading out to when you want to peak, the type of training you want to do. If you want to do more bump surfing, if you want to do a 10K, if you want to do a 10 mile, if you want to do the Chatterjack, Molokai, Carolina Cup, because a lot of the programs are similar, but you have to tweak things depending on when you're trying to get ready, how far you're doing, and also what craft you're on. Because stand-up's a lot more painful all the time than outrigger. But outriggers, they tend to go an extra 2 hours sometimes.
Yeah, you've got a lot of long races. So have you also done a lot of those that were your kind of dream races on OC that have added stand-up? Have you done a lot of them both craft?
A lot of the ones I've been into, it's mostly either OC or stand-up. I know Carolina, the first couple of years when they added outrigger, they would do outrigger the second day. And we absolutely loved it. And the favorite thing in the world is to do the graveyard twice. Do it on stand-up first, because that's more painful. And then come back and do it on the outrigger the next morning is absolutely wonderful. Just being able to see the course again, being able to do it on a different craft, recognize advantages of each one. It's rather enjoyable for me personally because I love the outrigger and I think it's easier to do. Do that one second.
Well, that's impressive. I'm not sure everybody thinks it's easier, but it's all, knowledge and muscle memory, and you've been doing it since you were very young. Did you say your dad actually started the Outrigger Club?
Yeah, so my dad started the Lanakila Canoe Club, I believe, in '69, and he's been running the club the whole time. Met my mom there as a rookie, and they ended up getting married, and my mom paddled for several years until my brother and I were about 10, 11, and then she took a step back so that my brother and I could participate, because you can't have everybody on the water at once. Nobody's watching anyone.
Yeah. I know you deal with that now. So speaking of, you met your wife, I think, through paddling.
Yes.
Maybe? Yes. And the lovely Leah Ching, who is also an excellent paddler. And you have two amazing little ones who I threw up some of the pictures you gave me in our Facebook group page, and getting a lot of. And right before Carolina Cup was a small local race called the Harbor Hoot, where you had we did some fun short races. You won there, but you got both of them on the podium. But there was that little fun, silly race. This is so amazing that you can do this kind of thing. You and Riley on your jumps, on your 404s, pulling your daughter on a boogie board with leashes, but you had a foot on your board and a foot on her board.
Yeah.
Who can do that?
Anthony Vela runs the Harbor Hoot. Awesome, fun race. Great, just fun. We used to call it Sunday Fun Day paddling. So it's all the fun things you would do, just paddling at your local beach. But one of the races was to take two stand-up boards, tie a leash to a tandem boogie, which is just like a short inflatable half a stand-up. And I put my daughter on there, and we were going to paddle and pull her, except the leash string on Riley's board broke. So the leash came out, and everybody was gone. So I just told Riley, and it's crazy, like 17-year-old kids, never done it before. I go, hey, just put one foot on the board. I'll put one foot on the board. We paddle, and we paddled and dragged her up. And he figured it out. She knows to hold on, and it's just one of those things. It's a fun race. We got smoked because someone else's leash held, and they paddled normal. But it was just interesting to just paddle, stand on one foot while paddling your board and towing someone behind you, and
it's all for fun, so nobody got disqualified. But I have to say, some were paddling on their knees, which a lot of us did in the Carolina Cup. And
sometimes it's required.
Sometimes it is, yeah. So racing, businesses, all different craft. You have amazing family. balance is the word that I think of when I think of you. And the first part of that is just, I don't know anybody who walks around the board like you do, as if you're on land when you're on a board. Like you were just so ridiculously comfortable on a board. Nobody can do that like you. But you're also balancing so much in life. So is that a theme in your life, that word, balance?
Balance is one. I like to call it juggling. It's just
Juggling.
keep adding balls until something falls away, and then you got to make decisions. And unfortunately, the pandemic hit and shut everything down. But fortunately for me, it took a few things off my plate that really freed up my time and gave me an opportunity to really think about what's important to me. Gave me an opportunity to say, hey, look, I have a chance to actually focus on a handful of things instead of, being a husband, being a father, running a business, trying to lifeguard, trying to coach, trying to OC6, OC1, dragon boat on the side. Oh yeah, that stand-up thing you do, it's kind of important. You should also race. But it took a lot of the group activities out, which meant I could refocus on a couple little things. And so for me, I was kind of, I found like 34, 35 was that age where if you added something to my plate, something else would have to go away or everything would drop. And so it was a nice reset for me to just say, hey, look, what is important to you? What do you want to be good at? And for how long? And so it was great. I got to spend so much time with the family, kind of went through that session, got everything kind of reorganized, got to spend time learning how to shape the boards on Shape 3D. So pressing buttons, figuring out how it works, just guessing most of the time. Stuff. Spending time learning how to train differently and learning like new ways to paddle. I started coaching a bunch of kids at a little called Paddle Sports Base Camp, where I'd grab like 4 or 5 kids at a time and we'd go OC1s, we'd go stand-up surfing, we'd go stand-up paddling, racing, all nice equipment, all the good stuff. And I learned so much from the kids, like, hey, go like this. And like, but this is easier. Like, oh man, that really is like, maybe I should paddle that way, like the 10-year-old. And it's just been enjoyable, just taking some time off, taking some time back, and then recognizing that I don't have to do everything all the time. So being able to hand some of those jobs off has been it's been good for me. It's been good for the family, and honestly, it's been good for my paddling.
Yeah, glad to hear that. So I love to hear about, you're kind of at a different place in life, having small children and everything, and maybe travel isn't so much, but you've been a lot of places in your whole life in terms of water. Are there still some you haven't been to, whether it's stand-up or outrigger or surf?
It's really hard. I've been very, very lucky, very fortunate to do all these different races, all these different places I never knew I wanted to go to. And I remember my mom, before she passed, told me, she goes, if you haven't done it yet, you shouldn't say no. Like when are you going to have these opportunities again? And then I kind of looked at her and laughed. I said, come on, like I have these opportunities all the time. She goes, I know, but you haven't done this one. And so I just look at it. I'm just grateful that I've gotten what I gotten. I'm in the places I mean, right now is just where I'm sitting is pretty ridiculous. So
Is that a secret spot?
no, we're celebrating Veterans Day with a couple friends, couple family. One of them is their birthday, and so we just take the family. The week after a big race for me is always a just cruise week. But as far as all the races that I've always wanted to do, I've done them. There's new races that pop up every day. Where you're like, wow, it'd also be cool. But at this point, I just take it as I've gone all the places that I've always wanted to. Anything extra is a bonus. Done all the races that I've ever wanted to. Everything extra is a bonus. And if you give me an opportunity to do it again, I'll probably take it.
Well, again, congratulations on all of those wins and all the places that you've gone and you're in your young life. I'm going to call you young, even though perhaps in the pro world, it doesn't seem like that, but I know we're going to have many decades still of Danny Ching on the podium. You have a 404 team too, and I guess that probably includes, you have a lot of stores and people who rep for you and stuff who with your equipment, but you also brought like Ryland and some people were there doing a great job. You want to talk about some of the people associated with you and your racing 404 or repping 404?
Just thank you to everyone. I mean, Greg Jensen, my partner, he's the one who kind of put me on this path of like, hey, if I got $1 for every time I heard your name in outrigger, we should do stand up and make that dollar. Just changed my life. where I am today, I'd probably be attempting something similar, but I wouldn't be in this spot for sure. Scott Shannon in the office is amazing. We hired him as a sales rep. He literally does everything. He runs the company. It's great. I'm allowed to be here today. He yelled at me. He's like, come on, I want to go serve. Tomorrow's your day. I'll go sit in the office. So thank you to those guys. And then like all the shops and stuff, we have great shops. Just love paddling, love the lifestyle, love everything. Travis down at Zeke Paddle Surf. I know we got the No Snow guys, Heather and Court, Gorge Performance, Kim and Bob. There's so many stores that are just amazing. I know Tanya Martin just picked up distribution in Europe. This is their first year of running Europe, and this is the best we've ever done in Europe. It's so good to have passionate people behind it. And, you know, April being on the team, her husband, Corey, awesome. Super, super awesome. We were running around on Sunday at the APP surf race, board caddying, and just making sure everybody on the coming into the beach side was okay.
Thank you.
500-600 yards down the beach. We're like, hey, you know what? You got to go out again. We're going to carry your board up. Don't worry about it. You just run. And then having all these young kids that are super excited. I mean, we've ran the gambit in the last 10 years of young kids coming up, getting good at paddling, getting into it, getting out of it. And it's just kind of been my whole life. It's been my dad's life before that, my uncle's life, you know, after that. And it just sort of got handed down to me, and I love it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. And like you said, we brought Rylan Hard out, and he fell in on the upwind. He was very, very upset. He was very cold. He spent the last few years in Hawaii going to UH. So hitting the water in Wrightsville Beach was an experience for him, and I'm sure he'll be better for it. But, you know, there's all these kids that love paddling. It's been part of their life, and they move on to other stuff or they stay. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I see Slater Christian, one of my 10-year-old Paddle Sports Base Camps kids, keeps commenting. Just another group of kids coming through, and just happy to give them an experience.
Fantastic. Well, you're no better role model out there than you. So you do sometimes, you've got a whole bunch of people inviting you to Brazil and come back to the UK, and, you know, we need you. You do some clinics. I know your time is limited, but you still do get around, probably showing the boards and doing clinics and such. I don't know if there's anything on the calendar. I know things are just starting to open up. Can people find you anywhere in the next year? Or?
Yeah, I've been getting messages, and so I like to work with the people that are super passionate and already support us first. I know my time is very limited. I have X amount of time, and I need to spend a certain amount of that, or however much I believe, with the family first. But outside of that, I do want to put together a handful of traveling events, clinics, and stuff like that. And so right now, easiest way to contact me is just go through Instagram, Danny Ching 404, send me a message, and I will respond. I'll let you know what's up. If it's legitimate, we can talk. And for the most part, I try and respond as much as I can, but on some days, sometimes it gets pushed down to the bottom. Just send it again.
Great. And I appreciate how available you are. You really are one of the nicest. It's interesting that people from other sports it just seems like paddle sport people are just so much more friendly and connected, and there isn't such a separation. At least it doesn't feel like that to me at all. And I love that part of our sport. I know you love outrigger, but for stand-up, can you say there's a favorite part about it, or how it's different maybe from some of your other paddlecraft that you have mastered?
It's very humbling. So the nice thing about stand-up, I equate it to like running. There's so many different ways to do it. You can do it easy for fun. You can do it super competitively racing. You can do it 1,000 different ways racing. You paddle around the harbor with your paddle backwards. The one thing is, it doesn't matter how good you are. I love the instant someone yells your name, you turn around to look back, and instantly, boom, off the back of the board. Doesn't matter if you're a world champion, a ninja, 10 years old, you go swimming. So I love the fact that it could be the most competitive, aggressive, coolest thing you've ever done, and instantly you can be a kook in 1 second. It fits the description of what we love, why we love it, and it's basically as competitive as you want it to be, or not as competitive as you want it to be. And it's wonderful in that sense.
Yeah. Never thought about it that way. But you're so nimble on your board, and it does seem like you can kind of, is it do more tricks? There's more than when you're sitting in an outrigger and you're in position. You can't twirl
You
around and do all the things that you do.
can only fall to your right in the outrigger. You can't fall forward or back. You usually don't fall left. So that allows you to be more secure, but then it also takes away a lot of the excitement. That's 3 sides of excitement that you don't get.
I love that. 3 sides of excitement, falling in all those different directions, or leaning or spinning or doing all those different things. So I could ask you for like top tips in so many different areas, but because you're a stand-up champion and we're celebrating you, cheers. This didn't have anything in it. Kind of wish it did. What tips would you give like on being your best and fastest paddler, stand-up paddler?
I would just say be comfortable and practice. Find places where you, like when you're racing, you need to be comfortable. You need to have everything set up the way you would expect it. But the biggest thing is if you want to be better at paddling, go paddle more. At a certain point, you need to do it a certain way, but 90% of this is go try again. Don't be afraid to fall, and don't be afraid to learn from your experiences. If it's not working this way, try anything else except for the same thing harder.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that's excellent advice. I'm going to throw in something you said earlier too, just how much it's about a mental game. And I think people forget that sometimes, how much, you know, how your perspective about it and how you go into it and plan. But that's kind of part of the be prepared that you just mentioned.
Just start out with practicing. You're going to learn from experience. And the trick is, like, when it works, try and figure out what was the thing that helped. And when it doesn't work, try and figure out what took you away from all the things that were so good at practice when the sun was out and the rainbow was out and everything was perfect. Because paddling's not perfect after the first 3 seconds.
Only 3 seconds of perfection. I love that.
So,
equipment. I mean, you're a master of equipment. You own a paddle company and a board company and a platform for coaching. Can you give advice to people about equipment?
yeah, everybody has different equipment, all the different board companies, all the different paddle companies. The big thing I always focus on is the equipment has to be suited for what you do. And because, again, stand-up is so different. If you're doing a surf race, if you're doing the graveyard of the Carolina Cup, if you're normally doing what the Money Island race should be, that flat water, beautiful, little bit of breeze, the equipment needs to match not only what you're going to be participating in, but also who you are. So if you look at April and I, we looked at the course. We had actually our LTDs, our surf race boards for surf, which April used on Sunday. But we had our racing flat water, small chop board, the jump for that race. And then we looked at the personalities, and my personality is always, hey, when it's time to go, spin it, send it. And I chose a paddle that helped me do that. Her personality is sit and grind. She picked the Triple G out, same company, same everything. I designed both paddles. Sometimes I want to do this. Sometimes I need to be over here. So a lot of the times in board selection, in equipment selection, your paddle, in the training program is recognize who you are, recognize or try and guess what you're going to be doing. And then take a pick, because you can't do everything well all the time, but you can literally select one thing and go, if everything goes horribly wrong and I'm doing this type of race, I just want to be good at this one thing. So like April going out through the surf, looked real timid, real shy. We gave her the same paddle I use for sprinting, the Blur, and she just sent it, which is very different than what she was doing the day before.
Yeah, such good advice. And I hope people are hearing that how different you two, you know, some things are the same, things were different, but it needs to be you and your race.
Whatever.
It isn't always perfect, because I have people that are like, oh,
yeah,
you know, wrong equipment, but sometimes they want it to do everything, and just doesn't work. I'm looking at a comment somebody made. About 5 minutes after the graveyard, after the initial hugs were done, you announced to basically no one, I have to call my wife. It was just about the most real and authentic moment I've ever seen.
Yeah. We've been training together. We've been training with a small group because of COVID, and she's been telling me all month, hey, this is the fastest I've ever seen you. You're running the best you've ever done. And for me, it's always hard to go in thinking I'm the favorite because I'm trying to like plan for all the little things that could go wrong that could take me from what I believe to be a first place finish all the way down. And everything was planned in the race. Everything went according to plan. There's a point at the bottom turn where I looked up and was like, wow, this is not the spot I wanted to be. It's close, but I'm a little further behind, and there's a few more people in between me and first place where I thought, and I just thought, you know what? This is the fastest I've ever been. Now I'm at a disadvantage. Nobody believes in me. I like this spot. Let's take a swing and see how it goes. And so I finished the race, and I called her, and I told her, I go, you're right. I thought about it. I saw it. I made a couple mistakes. It put me in a position. You were right. And crossed the line, did the quick, thank yous, all that other stuff. But the first thing I want to do is call the wife, call the kids, and just be like, wow, we've been doing this for 2 years straight. And yeah, it was totally worth it. And thank you for letting me go and train, do the work, and then coming with me and supporting me.
Oh, that's amazing. So that's what amazing family man you are amongst all your other superior traits and qualities, which are just fantastic. I'm cruising through here. You got all kinds of people on here. See if we have any other specific questions. It's 50 degrees and gray and raining in Michigan.
Oh, sorry.
It's pretty much like North Carolina. Let's paddle. That's pretty funny.
We came back to a pretty amazing spot right now. So there's the friends and family hanging, and we're just sort of enjoying it. I was gone for like 4 or 5 days, so now I'm in charge of the kids for the next week. But they're sleeping. That's good.
Napping at the moment. But I really, really appreciate you taking the time. We're all so excited to hear your story. It's an amazing one from last weekend and from the past 12 years. Where you are as again, you're not old, but you're one of the older top paddlers. Because I wonder, as we start talking about it's kind of random where we decide masters is. And we've had this before, like 40. I remember when they decided 40 plus was masters at something. And I was thinking of like Kelly Margetts, who was already in his 40s, the Stephanie Scheidlers, the Aprils. There's a lot of really good paddlers. It seems like paddling, perhaps because it's not an impact sport. Do you think maybe we can be good at it a little bit longer? I didn't find it till I was almost 50. So
it has its qualities. The stand-up side of things makes it a little more difficult because fitness quality to it, where if you are fitter than somebody, you can beat up on them just by trying for a period of time. So in the longer races, I think, being older, being more experienced has its advantages. But for the most part, because of that fitness requirement, there is a level of everyone can go this fast with the proper technique and training. If you want to go this fast, you need to be bigger, stronger, and younger. And however long you can hold that means you get an advantage for a moment. Mm-hmm. As far as moving the line, 40 is an arbitrary number. When I was growing up, 35 used to be masters in the outrigger. I got to about 27. They pushed it back to 40. I'm like, I'm almost there. And Fox pushing it to 45.
Or 50.
I want to master this sport.
We do, I have to say, because we go to, your event is coming up in February, I think. Lana Kilo will be holding their winter series. So in Southern California, our stand-up paddle races are put on by the outrigger clubs. And we love that there's a 50 plus 60, what's it called? Masters, senior masters, and golden senior masters or something like that.
Now they're talking about whatever comes after golden. He had 82 and still races in the 60 plus division.
Wow.
And he only complains about not having a division when he loses.
It's okay if I can still be winning. Yeah, at that.
Yeah, it's fine. You guys are terrible. Oh, you're good? I want 70 now.
We do have a question here about any tips for rough water paddling.
Yes, your technique changes in rough water because the most important thing becomes don't fall. So all of the things you would do for normal generating power, torque out of your body, you would sacrifice a few of those things to be lower. And I like to actually choke up on my blade because it makes the paddle heavier. And when things are rough, we actually want something to hold on to that's heavy. When things are good, we want something really light to pull. So little thing, choke up your hand, make sure you stay low. I always joke, I go, Kai Lenny and the Japanese surfer at Waikiki taking away for his first time have the same like super low, I'm not going to die stance. Although Kai doesn't care anymore. He sends it. But all those big wave surfers, all the new surfers, stay low because that is the most important part. You are not allowed to fall.
Yeah, I'm big about visualization, and I always pretend I'm one of my very small friends, like when there's wind and rough water, and I try to be low and small if something's coming at me. That is amazing advice. I had never really thought about it with the heavy and the choke up and the light and loose. And
the little kids taught me all that stuff of like, here's the concept, here's how things work, here's the angles and the pressures, and it's so much easier if I just do this.
Oh. That's so great. And there's so many ways to kind of think about it, but some of these aha moments, yeah, kids are amazing, huh? They don't get stuck kind of in a rut like a lot of us do as adults, I think.
A lot of the lessons I teach are now more on, I call it applicable or like real-time paddling, because we can go to happy hour, and we can go have coffee after a morning paddle, and we can talk about all of the angles and pressures. Not helpful when we're paddling at all. So teaching 10-year-olds, I've learned to kind of figure out, hey, this is how you feel the water. This is the feeling you want to have. I can see it in your face when you get it, and I can see it in your face when you don't. And these are a couple tricks that kind of get you back to that feeling. And that's pretty much it. Because at the end of the day, when you're paddling upwind in the last hour of a race, you don't remember everything. You're just looking for, nope, I got it. That's it. Okay, it's gone.
Great advice. We have another question about, you've given some advice already, just about distance paddling in general, whether it's physical or mindset or paddle. Any other advice about distance?
Of physical fitness required. There's your strategy involved. Are you just going to sit on a steady grind, or are you going to occasionally burst and then hold your speed? But what I learned from some of the toughest paddlers in the world, whenever we take our California guys and we go to Hawaii and race all the good Hawaii paddlers, downwind paddlers, Tahitians, the one thing I would always bank on is the guys I hang out with have a mindset and they're tougher than you. You might be bigger, you might be stronger, you might be younger, you might be better at paddling, but when things get really, really hard, we are going to keep paddling, and if you let go of that rope, we're taking it. And that comes from my uncle Josh Creighton, comes from my buddy Ross Flemmer. I can go through Cliff Meidel, carried the U.S. Olympic flag in 2000, Olympic kayaker. All these guys have this incredible mindset of course this is happening, and I'm happy to be here. So the toughness for distance paddling is something that all of the people I paddled back in Lanakeela, they have it from the fastest paddler to the slowest paddler. It's a mindset that is slowly beat into you over years. And then you look like this when you paddle upwind for no reason.
That helps psych them out too. Maybe the smile.
The glasses, the smiling pain face looks just like your happy face.
Smiling pain face. I love it. Yep, mindset. So good, Danny. That's such great advice. So back to you and like favorites. You've been a lot of places. Have you had some really favorite races or favorite places that you've been to that you've paddled?
I'd always say Hawaii. Some of the best experiences I've had are with my friends in Hawaii, getting to know the locals, doing all the races that I grew up wanting to do. One of the best trips I've ever had was Fiji. A couple of friends of mine, Stanley and Loretta, set it up to where I could come out to Fiji and teach. My wife and I weren't yet married, but I was taking my super hot girlfriend on a Fiji trip, which was great. We hung with the locals. We hit the farmer's market. It was probably about 2 weeks after they opened up Cloud Break and all the reef breaks. And so I got to surf stand up at Cloud Break. I got nailed. And then I went and got a shortboard and went back out. But just a bunch of the events we've done like that, Fiji, Leah and I got to travel and go hang out with Travis and Blair Grant over on the Gold Coast and go do an event out there and travel with them. Again, super fun. Love hanging out with those guys. Just kind of wherever we end up with our friends. The location is less important than the people every single time. And even now, we're at a different surf break than we like to go to. It was a little bit weird, but again, the people are here. It's the most fun ever. And right now it's glassing off and the waves are getting better. I think
And you are jonesing to get out there.
it'll still be good in an hour. It's fine.
I'm gonna let you go in a few minutes, but your advice and stories have been amazing. You are amazing, and your whole family. I've really enjoyed the family aspect. Quite a few of our stand-up paddlers started families during COVID, so it's been really fun to see you guys getting together and meeting kids for the first time. You know, and Travis Grant, are they having another one?
They just had another boy a little while ago.
That's
so they
it.
2 boys. I got 2 girls. So we're gonna see how that.
Arranged marriages, maybe? Just kidding. Way too early for that. Who is the best outrigger paddle for Danny? Does that mean which maybe? That's from M. Fernandez. We have people from all over the world here.
Yeah, we do a bunch of outrigger paddles. We have essentially 3 shapes with hippo stick. And started out with just the OC blade, which is a small paddle, super good at quick turnover. I love it. Like when dragon boaters ask for an outrigger paddle, I give them that thing since it's like a 500-meter sprint thing. Real strong catch, not as good in the middle, but they don't pull that far anyway. We have a Tahitian round one, which has like the second half power, real good for people with long, slow strokes. And then working with Ryland Hart in Hawaii, he's out there working with all the top outrigger Hawaii guys. He's doing really, really well. We shaped a paddle that's the heart attack, and it's got the up front, it's got the middle, it's got the back. I think it's the fastest paddle out there, but that's only because sometimes I can beat him with it, which is a good sign.
It must be amazing to train up a kid like that, and then he's really good.
Yeah, those kids we've trained, and he's the first one who's come back and goes, "Oh yeah, but look what else I learned." I'm like, "Oh." So he coached the team Kalahui Kai in Oahu this year.
Oh, that's neat.
Catalina right before COVID, and he wasn't coaching, he was on the team. They throttled us. He coached them again this year. He ran the whole thing. Him and Hunter Pfluger program. Travis Grant was on the team. Kai Chong was on the team. A lot of good paddlers. And we raced them the whole Catalina Channel this year about 7-8 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And there were points in there where I'm like, okay, we're going to do this move and we're going to take them down. And I would do the move and suddenly they would counter. And I'm like,
Ryland knows your moves.
So we were chatting after.
Travis.
I knew what you were doing. I knew the opposite. We're going the other way. And so it was really interesting, essentially racing myself and then recognizing like I should probably keep one. You know what? No, I don't.
No secrets. You're a great coach and you share it all.
No, I love racing. If it's harder, then it's more rewarding. And if they're going to be better, then they can be better. It's fine.
I think that's another quotable quote. If it's harder, it's better. Yeah.
More rewarding. It's
more
always
rewarding.
In the Carolina Cups with all the fast people than when there's only 1 or 2, which it's still rewarding. Don't get me wrong. But when there's 10, 20, 30 fast guys, when everyone's figuring it out and everybody knows what's happening, it's way more rewarding to win those races than nobody's here. I'm going to get first. Yeah,
it is. That's amazing. Well, it was a great, as spectators, and so glad you were there, and congrats on that win. A shout out to, we have a couple Mel's on here from Alaska, but Mel from South Korea wants you to come out to do Melvin, Pine Ocean.
Melvin, right on.
Yeah. Melvin. I always forget it's Melvin. It's funny how these names go. Well, Danny, I'm going to let you go. Just want to thank everybody who is listening in. You had a huge crowd here, and I'm sure lots of people will watch the recording too. So much great stuff to share, such a great story, and your win last weekend was epic. Again, everyone, this is every week live on Supconnect's Instagram, but then it goes to YouTube, and we also have a little Facebook group. Put up a bunch of pictures of Danny. Oh, I forgot to ask you about that. When you stand on the side of the board, I don't even know what to call it because so few people can do it.
Yeah, we were playing around. My buddy Slater was there, a bunch of the kids, and we were seeing if we could just stand on the rail. And so I figured out how to put my foot, shift it, and just stand on the rail of the board. So rail riding, and it became like an Instagram challenge or something, didn't it? It was not supposed to be a challenge, but somebody Like, oh, yeah. I was
Well,
like, okay.
people are trying, and there's a lot of dugout boards now. So,
There's a
more.
handful of annual canoe guys that called me out. They're like, I noticed you could only do it on your right foot. I was like, you're right. I can only do it on my right.
Yep.
Left, that picture did not come out.
We were talking about that this morning. Important to practice on your weak side, whatever it is, too. Not just count on that. Great. Well, thank you, Danny. Get out there, get some good waves. Thank you for doing this while you're on a trip. That was amazing. I'm so glad it worked even without Wi-Fi. Good to know. And take care. We'll see you at a race soon, at one of these outrigger races, yours in February.
Awesome.
Yeah.
On the harbor here is the Oceanside Becky Stewart, December 4th.
Oh, yeah.
So just saw that one. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Danny. You're awesome. Take care.